Hello and welcome everyone. This is Miss Christina and our today's lesson is going to be about conditionals. So basically there are two-part sentences where one part starts with if, and there are quite a few types of conditionals, but we will focus on four main ones: zero, first, second, and third. By the end of this lesson, you will learn how to formulate these conditional sentences and how to use them and when to use them. As it is said, first things first, and we will start with formulation. So, zero conditional. In the if clause, we have present simple, and in the main clause or in the consequence clause, we have again present simple. First conditional. In the if clause we have present simple, and in the main clause we have future simple. Conditional to or second conditional. In the if clause we have past simple, and in the main clause we have would do. Third conditional. In the if clause we have past perfect, and in the main clause we have would have done. Here we are to remember that if clause can be either in the first part or the second part of the sentence. Now let's have a more detailed look at each conditional separately. So, zero conditional. The formulation, as you remember, is if plus present simple, and again present simple in the main clause. So the concept is, it expresses a fact, it shows a fact, something that is always true. Now let's have a look at examples. Here is this sentence: if you mix red and blue, you get purple. Or plants die if they do not get enough water. Here we are to remember that for conditional zero, it is also possible to use when instead of if, because it is not a real conditional sentence. For example, when it rains, the grass gets wet. Now let's have a look at first conditional. So let's remember the formulation. It is if plus present simple and future simple in the main clause. So the concept is a present or future situation of high probability. So here we are to remember that the probability is about the probability of the action in the if clause, not the other clause, like the consequence clause. Now let's have a look at the examples. So, somebody is very frequently late, and here we have a sentence: if you get back late, I will get angry. Or, if I don't go to bed early, I will be tired. One more example: they will go to the party if they are invited. Now let's move on to second conditional. The formulation is if plus past simple and would do in the main clause. So the concept is a present or future situation of low probability or zero probability, a hypothesis, an unreal situation. So here we are also to remember that the probability is about the probability of the action in the if clause, not the other clause, a consequence clause. Now some examples of present or future situation of low probability. For example, I don't often see her. If I saw her tomorrow, I would speak to her. Or, I don't think anything will change. If anything changed, we would let you know. Now, zero probability or a hypothesis. I do not have any time this week. If I had some time, I would tidy up my office. Or another one, I'm not a lawyer. If I were a lawyer, I wouldn't take on this case. Here is something to draw your attention to, that the correct form of the verb to be to use in conditional to is were for all pronouns. In some cases, was is also possible, but it is better to keep it to were to ensure you are always correct. Now, third conditional. The formulation is if plus past perfect and would have done in the main clause. So the concept is a past situation, something that is too late or with zero possibility. So let's have a look at these examples. We didn't take a taxi. If we had taken a taxi, we wouldn't have missed the plane. Or she didn't go to bed early. She wouldn't have been tired if she had gone to bed earlier. And this one, they weren't late last night. I wouldn't have let them in if they had been late. Now let's have a look at special cases. Now, use of would for politeness. For example, if you follow me, please, I'll show you your room. You can add here would to sound more polite. If you'd follow me, I'll show you your room. Now let's have a look at other special cases. The uses of imperatives and requests in conditional 1. So, if you see John, please give him this book. Now, instead of future simple, we have here present simple because it is an imperative sentence. Or the second one, could you give John this book, please, if you see him? Now, this is a request, and we formulated it with could you. Another request, if you aren't busy, may I see you for a minute? And here we formulated the sentence using may. Now let's have a look at other cases where we can use may, might, and could. These can be used in the consequence clause to reduce the certainty of the action in that clause. Now let's have a look at conditional 1 and see how it is formulated here. If I see her tomorrow, I will speak to her. So there is no doubt that I will speak to her. In this kind of sentence, it gives this sense. And here we have another sentence with may, might, and could. If I see her tomorrow, I may speak to her, or I might speak to her, or I could speak to her. This means that there is some doubt that I will speak to her even if I see her. Now let's have a look at the usage of may, might, and could models in a second conditional. So again, this can be used in the consequence clause to reduce the certainty of the action in that clause. So let's compare. If they were late again, I wouldn't let them in. It means I'm really sure that I will not let them in. And now, in this sentence, if they were late again, I might not let them in. It means it is possible that I will not let them in. This way, I reduce the certainty of the action in this clause. Let's see them in conditional 3 or third conditional. So, if I had had some time last week, I would have tidied up my office. It means that it's sure that I would have tidied it up if I had time last week. And now, in this example, if I had had some time last week, I might or I could have tidied up my office. It means that it is possible that I would have tidied it up, but it is not that sure. But there is one thing to remember here, that we use may only in conditional one sentences, but might and could can be used in all three real conditionals. Now let's have a look at common mistakes that the students usually make when writing their conditional sentences. So the first one is using when instead of if in real conditionals. So you are to remember that when is to be used in conditional 0. So let's have a look at this example. When I see her tomorrow, I will speak to her. Actually, this is a correct sentence, but it has a different meaning. It means that you are certain you will see her tomorrow, and it is no longer a conditional sentence. Let's see it in conditional 2. So, for example, when it were a little warmer, I would go for a swim. Actually, this is a wrong sentence. It should be, if it were a little warmer, I would go for a swim. So the same is with conditional 3. And now let's have a look at common mistake number 2. So when students use will or would twice, let's have a look at these examples. So the student has written, if you will come back tomorrow, I will give it to you then. So actually this is not correct, because in the if clause we cannot have will. So it should be, if you come back tomorrow, I will give it to you then. Now conditional 2. You would miss the bus if you wouldn't leave now. So this is again a wrong mistake. There is this mistake of having second wouldn't in the sentence in the if clause. So it should be, you would miss the bus if you didn't leave now. And the third conditional, no one would have noticed if you wouldn't have said anything. So again, in the if clause, we cannot use wouldn't, and instead of wouldn't have, it should be hadn't said anything. So the sentence should be, no one would have noticed if you hadn't said anything. So this much, dear students, for today. Hope you find this video really helpful, and you will start just writing your conditional sentences correctly. So hope to see you again later on. Thank you.